I'm not gonna say my real name. Let's just call me Jessa. I'm a social worker down in Kentucky. Been at it for a few years now. I check on foster homes, make sure the kids are okay, you know? Most of the time it's fine. Tired parents, messy houses, that sort of thing. But this one time, in Pikeville, it was different. It was late summer, hot as hell, and I was driving out to this foster home way off the main road. The place was big, an old farmhouse with chipped paint and a rusty mailbox. I remember the gravel crunching under my tires, and there was this quiet. No birds, no nothing. Just the wind rattling some loose shutters. The folks there, Mr. and Mrs. Carver, they came out all smiles. Too many teeth, you know? Like they were trying way too hard. They said, "Oh, come in, Jessa. Let us show you around." I didn't want to be rude, so I went with it. They took me all over, past these creaky outbuildings, a big patchy yard. I saw some fresh dirt piled up out back, like someone had been digging. Mrs. Carver said it was for a new shed, but I don't know. Felt weird. Then there was this clothesline, little shirts and shorts flapping around. But they didn't look right. Too small or too big for the kids I'd read about in the file. I asked about it, casual-like, and Mr. Carver just laughed. "Oh, we get hand-me-downs from everywhere." Okay, sure. The kids, 5 of them, were inside, clean, fed, no bruises or anything, but they wouldn't talk, not a peep. I said hi, and they just stared. Big eyes, scared as hell whenever the Carvers got close. I tried asking them stuff. "How's school? You like it here?" But nothing. They'd flinch, look away. It got under my skin. I went back a couple days later, tried talking to him alone in the kitchen. The floorboards squeaked every time I shifted my weight. Used to drive me nuts when my old dog would pace at night. Anyway, the kids wouldn't speak, but they started doing these fast hand signals. Shaky hands, pointing at the door, then at their throats. I didn't get it. I asked Mrs. Carver if they were deaf or something. She just smiled, all creepy, and said, "No, honey, they're just real quiet." By my 3rd visit, I was freaking out a little. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my gut. I snuck out to the yard while the Carvers were busy. One of the kids, this little girl, was by herself near the clothesline. I crouched down and whispered, "Hey, what's going on? You can tell me." She opened her mouth, but no sound. Then I saw it, a thin scar on her neck. I checked the others later. Same damn thing. Holy shit, I thought. Someone cut their vocal cords. These kids couldn't talk because they couldn't. My hands were shaking. I had to get out of there, call someone. But when I turned, Mr. Carver was right behind me, staring. "You're too nosy, Jessa," he said, real slow. I bolted for my car, but my head got fuzzy. Legs wouldn't work right. I'd had some tea they gave me. Stupid mistake. The kids were watching from the porch, and their eyes, they looked sorry. Like they knew what was coming. Next thing, I'm waking up in some dark shed. Throat hurts like hell. I try to yell, nothing but a rasp. I touch my neck, and there's a fresh scar. They got me too. I'm scribbling this on some old receipt I found in my pocket. If you're reading this, please. Pikeville, the Carvers, they're monsters. The kids can't scream for help. Neither can I. My name is Cordelia, and I was working as a nurse practitioner back then. Fresh out of school, you know? Looking for experience. I took this job at a small clinic in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, right in the Smoky Mountains. Beautiful area, but isolated, really isolated. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and outsiders stick out like a sore thumb. Dr. Whitmore ran the place. Old guy, maybe 70s, been there for decades. He told me we served these mountain communities that barely saw medical professionals. Made sense, I guess. Some of these folks lived hours away from the nearest hospital. The first few weeks were normal. Usual stuff. Diabetes checkups, minor injuries, that sort of thing. But then I started noticing something weird. These young women kept coming in. Always the same age range, maybe 16 to 25. They had these symptoms, memory problems. Couldn't remember simple things from the day before, and bruises. Always had bruises they couldn't explain. The strangest part? They were so compliant, like robots almost. Dr. Whitmore would tell them to do something, and they'd just do it. No questions, no hesitation. It reminded me of my old dog after the vet gave him those heavy sedatives. I asked Dr. Whitmore about it one day. We were eating lunch in his office. I remember because he had this ancient coffee maker that made the worst coffee I'd ever tasted. He just shrugged and said it was genetic. Generations of isolation in these mountains, he explained, caused all sorts of developmental issues. That should have been enough, but it wasn't. I started staying late, going through patient files. My apartment was lonely anyway, just me and this stray cat I'd found behind the clinic. The cat had this habit of knocking over my coffee mug every morning, which always annoyed me. The files were wrong. All these women had similar medical histories, too similar, and their records showed they'd been patients for years, but some of them looked barely 18. Then I found the altered documents. Whiteout, different handwriting, dates that didn't match. Someone had been changing these files for a long time. One night, I decided to check the security cameras. Dr. Whitmore had shown me the system when I started, but I'd never looked at the recordings. I stayed until midnight, going through footage from the past few months. What I saw made my hands shake. After hours, cars would pull up. Sheriff's vehicle, town council members, other local officials. They'd bring these unconscious women inside. Dr. Whitmore would meet them, and they'd disappear into the back treatment rooms for hours. I kept watching. Night after night, the same pattern. Women going in unconscious, coming out walking, but empty, like their souls had been sucked out. I tried calling the state police the next morning, but when I picked up the phone, the line was dead. Then I tried my cell phone. No signal. That was weird because I'd always had good reception at the clinic. Dr. Whitmore brought me coffee that afternoon. His usual bitter brew, but he insisted I drink it, said I looked tired. I was tired, so I drank it. That's when everything got fuzzy. I remember him talking, but his voice sounded far away. Something about how I'd discovered their little operation, how they needed someone with medical training to help maintain the girls, how the drugs worked better when administered by a real healthcare professional. The last thing I remember clearly was him explaining how I'd be perfect for their program, both as a participant and a caretaker. I woke up 3 days later in my apartment. No memory of how I got there. My hands were bandaged, and there were needle marks on my arms. I quit that same day and moved back to Nashville. But sometimes I can't remember things, simple things, and I catch myself being too agreeable with authority figures. I still don't know what the hell they did to me in those missing days. I'm Kendall, and I study animals for a living, environmental research stuff. Last March, I got this amazing opportunity to join a wildlife project in the Smoky Mountains near Gatlinburg. The pay was incredible, like way more than usual. Should have been my first red flag, honestly. My research partner was this guy named Marcus. Been working that area for like 15 years. Really knew his shit about local wildlife patterns. The cabin we stayed in was pretty basic, but had all the equipment we needed. Trail cameras, GPS trackers, sample collection gear, the whole setup. Marcus made dinner most nights since I can barely cook ramen without burning it. He was always asking if I felt tired or wanted to rest early. Thought he was just being nice, you know? But weird things started happening pretty quick. The animals we were supposed to be tracking, they just weren't there, like at all. We should have seen deer, bears, even just squirrels. Nothing. The few animals we did spot seemed really agitated. Birds would just fly away the second they saw us. I kept asking Marcus about it. He'd just shrug and say the forest had unique properties that affected animal behavior. Made sense, I guess. I mean, he'd been doing this way longer than me. The trail cameras were picking up movement, though. At first, I was excited because maybe we'd finally get some footage. But when I reviewed the images, shit got really strange. There were people in the forest, at night, just standing around in groups, wearing dark clothes. Some had equipment I couldn't identify. They looked like they were hunting something, but not animals. I showed Marcus the footage, and he got really quiet. Said maybe they were just other researchers from different projects. But their body language was all wrong. They moved like predators. My evening meals started making me feel really drowsy after eating, like unnaturally tired. I'd crash hard every night around 8 p.m. Marcus said it was probably just the mountain air affecting my sleep cycle. One night, I forced myself to stay awake after dinner. Felt like I was fighting through fog, but I managed it. Around midnight, I heard voices outside the cabin. Multiple people talking in whispers. I looked out the window and saw flashlights moving between the trees. The same people from the trail camera footage. They were pointing at our cabin and laughing. It didn't sound right. That's when I noticed something that made my hands shake. All our research equipment, the GPS trackers, the monitoring devices. They weren't just tracking animals. The screens showed human vital signs. Heart rate, body temperature, location data. My location data. I realized the conservation work was bullshit. The whole project was fake. Those weren't other researchers in the forest. They were clients. Rich people paying to hunt something way more dangerous than deer. Marcus wasn't my research partner. He was preparing me. The evening meals weren't just making me tired. He was drugging me to make me weaker, slower, easier prey. All those previous researchers and volunteers Marcus mentioned, they weren't colleagues. They were victims who got released into the forest for these sick fucks to hunt down. I was next. I grabbed my car keys and ran. Didn't even pack anything. Just drove straight back to Nashville without stopping. Never reported it to police. Who would believe that story? Plus, I had no proof. Just deleted trail camera footage and my paranoid suspicions. But sometimes I wonder how many people are still out there in those mountains. How many researchers answered ads just like mine. And whether Marcus is still making dinner for the next victim.